Hello everyone, this is DD1 here, and today we are going to be looking at the Gemmy 2005 life-size animated Bah-Humbug Butler, otherwise known as Scrooge. And obviously it was called the Bah-Humbug Butler because they were afraid of getting into some kind of copyright issue with Scrooge. Although I'm pretty sure Scrooge is in the public domain, maybe I'm wrong about that, but especially nowadays you could probably just call him Scrooge. So it's the Gemmy life-size Scrooge because the other name isn't as good, of course. Now this item was in pretty rough shape when I first acquired it. I also had to work very hard to acquire this. It was not easy. There was some intense negotiation, honestly some of the most intense negotiation I've ever been through with getting an item. And then just to get it to this point with it being restored was just really challenging. And CJ Webler was of course a huge factor in getting this back to how it was. I also contributed in some things, and it was just quite the process, but it was mostly his work. And originally we thought this was all good to go, except for some cosmetic things, and then disaster struck, so I'll get into that. But first, this item was for 2005. It was obviously not released because you've not seen a video of another one. And I also just know it wasn't released. But there were two versions of this that were going to be released, or that were being promoted. There was this version, and then there was one in pajamas. And the pajamas one would hold a candle in his hand, and you had the typical butler position with the tray arm with the open hand and all of that. This one actually has it opposite. The tray arm is on the other side of the body and it has the fist, while the posable arm has the open hand. And there's no known evidence of a pajama one still existing. This is the only one I know of that still exists. It would be great if another one did show up, but as of this time, this is the only one. There is another one that is partially original because I was able to acquire a costume that was for an even earlier Scrooge than this, but unfortunately it was just the costume left. But you'll be seeing a video of what happened with that in the near future. But yeah, this one is the only fully intact Scrooge known to still exist. I'm sure there's a couple others out there, but who knows, right? But yeah, this guy had a number of issues. He had some rust in the base. His base was covered in mud and leaves. His head was severely damaged. He had some cosmetics missing, etc. And it took a lot to get to this point. And once the circuit board was working, we had audio ripped it, and we had filmed the sequence just because, and it's a miracle that we had decided to film the sequence exactly, because the board was shipped back to me, I installed it in the body, and it did nothing. Somehow in the process of shipping, the board died completely. And it's not just the circuit board itself, it's the actual EEPROM chip that died. So had we not audio ripped this and filmed the program, the audio and the program would have been completely lost to history. And that would have been terrible. But thank the Lord that we had documented that information. But Scrooge here is a very unique piece, obviously, inspired by Scrooge himself, the character, and the Gemmy Butler. This was for 2005, so the purple button on the base was not yet a thing. This was voiced by, I believe, Jay Brown, not Clint. Clint did not write the phrases for this or voice it. But this is a pretty good, Scrooge impression and writing and all of that. Now the detailing is very realistic with this guy. Honestly, one of the most realistic life-size characters Gemmy's done. I'll zoom in here. You can see he has real eyebrows and real sideburns. Unfortunately, the paint is kind of coming off around his lips, but it could be a lot worse. You can see the candle there is constantly flickering as long as he's in on mode. You can see his buttons. These are metal buttons, and they have a neat little pattern on them. And the fortune teller life size that was recreated, well, the costume wasn't, but the act making it into a character, that costume has the same buttons, which is pretty cool, but these were never used on a produced item. And the cape is kind of like Count Vigor's cape, but it's a more coarse and thick material. The vest is a green felt, and he has the Butler Wade style pants. And some samples actually have this green plastic in some parts, so you can see the little collapse pedal has green plastic, which is really neat. He's got a big scarf, and here's a side view. He's got some long gray hair. And there's the base. Yeah, that's really all I have to say about this guy. One of the most significant pieces in my collection for sure. And it's truly an honor to not only own this guy, but also to have been able to help in getting it restored and preserved, because in the condition this thing was in, there's no telling how long it would have lasted. It might have been thrown away in the next couple of years. So because of my and CJ Developers' efforts, it is now fully restored and brought back to life. Without further ado, we will start with the activations. There's one song and several phrases, and it's all moving just as it originally did, except for one phrase where the eyes start left and right. They're moving a little slower than they originally did in the program. But here you go.
Deck the halls with rotten house guests. Fruitcake that you'll never digest. Don you now your tacky sweaters. Only eggnog makes it better. La 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 la. Ha. There's only one thing I like about Christmas, and I've been drinking it since noon.
Also really like his movement program.
What would I like for Christmas? I'd like it to go away. Here's hoping the spirit of the season moves you right out the door. If I am to make it through this season with my sanity intact, it's going to take a lot of eggnog. Oh, goody. Another fruitcake. Why don't you go meet yourself under the mistletoe? Why, yes, you are the life of the party. The cheese log has more personality. If I ever had any goodwill toward men, Christmas has drained me of it. One more request for figgy pudding, and I am so out of here.
I'll do the song one more time for you.
Deck the halls with rotten house guests. Fruitcake that you'll never digest. Don you now your tacky sweaters. Only eggnog makes it better. La 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 la.
But yeah, guys, that is the Gemmy 2005 life-size animated Scrooge decoration. I personally really like it. It was theorized that it wasn't produced at the time because, you know, Scrooge as a decoration wasn't really that popular, but nowadays it might be more popular. So I wouldn't be too surprised if one of these several companies decides to try and make a Scrooge character. But I really enjoy it. Any guests I've had at the home have really enjoyed it, and it would be really awesome if another one surfaced. But thank you guys so much for watching, and I hope you enjoyed.